Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Macabre Podcast Universe. We take on franchises. We take on sequels. We do anything that's over 3.
Why do you keep saying sequels? People are going to think that we will do a 2-parter thing.
Oh, I guess in my head, sequels are just anything after.
Let's just nip that in the bud because it's easier just to say we do franchises.
You're
3
right.
movies or more. 3 is the minimum.
Yes. I wonder if there...
Just don't want to confuse the audience.
Yeah. I wonder if there's ever going to be a day where we've just done it all and it'll be like, all right, we're going to have to do this show or these movies.
I don't think that's possible because of the age that we live in currently, where one movie that might be original, might not be, does great, and then a studio's like, we can make millions of more dollars off of it.
Right.
Let's make a second movie and just slap a 2 after the same title.
Yeah, and funny enough, even after that comment, you should know that we actually love series.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're really bad.
Yeah.
So today we're covering a really weird one because this is the... I almost said the 13th. This is the 13th episode, but this is the 8th Marvel movie. So this is sandwiched right in between Iron Man 3 and Captain America Winter Soldier. So it's the 8th in a bigger franchise, but it's the 2nd Thor movie.
Wait, this comes after Winter Soldier?
This is before.
Okay.
Yes. You should know that because we're totally watching this phase in order, and we didn't have to wait for Thor: The Dark World to get here from the library.
Wait, so it goes Dark World, Winter Soldier, Guardians?
Yes. Then Avengers, Ant-Man.
Interesting.
So, should we talk about our first experience? Or, well, you have never seen the movie.
Last night was my first experience with
First experience with the movie.
Mm-hmm. And I'll get into thoughts and opinions later.
Okay, yeah, and I'll hold my thoughts and opinions for later, but I will say that I watched this movie in like late 2015 or 2016. I'd missed it, and I was totally uninterested.
Did you watch it by yourself?
Watched it by myself, and I hated it. I remember it was I'm not one to really get up during a movie, even at home for the most part. I'd rather pause it and see everything. But this was a movie where I was watching it at home and I was like walking around trying to figure out other things to do so that I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
You didn't do that the second watch.
I didn't. But again, I'm saving my opinions for later. But I just remember hating it and thinking it was the worst movie in the entire MCU up to yesterday. And maybe I think the same thing, or maybe I don't. You'll have to hang on to the end of the episode.
Interesting.
So do you want to hit it off first?
First, because I don't have much. Because we've already done a Thor movie, and most of the cast is people from Thor. Except, wait a second. Who is this guy who was in Thor, in the first Thor, but isn't in this one? Same character, different actor. And we're watching the movie, and Mike is like, that looks like Zachary Levi. This was after we had been like, that's definitely not the same actor. So then it's like, this is Zachary Levi. And this character is that Three Musketeers dude. And
from Thor 1.
Actually,
I didn't realize that he wasn't the same actor until I looked up that actor.
Oh, before that we were just like, that's not him. The same guy, same actor. Anyway, Mike is like, that looks like Zachary Levi. Guess what? Micah was right.
Yeah.
Which was just mind-blowing.
Although I did say that looks like Chuck, because I didn't remember his name. I think now I'll remember his name.
Well, you know what's funny about this guy is like, I have like facial blindness with him.
He's a bit of a chameleon.
He does not look like anything. I don't know. It's like you say Chuck and I'm thinking of someone. I didn't even watch Chuck, but you say Chuck and I just don't think of someone who looks even a shred of what this person looks like.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I can't get this guy's face to stick in my brain. But you got Zachary Levi.
Side note on him, I'm just so fascinated where his career is going to go after this year, because Shazam was a big hit and he was great in
But
that
he was
movie.
already so great before that because Chuck was a beloved show. And then he's Entangled.
Oh, okay.
And that
he's
the guy. He's the guy in Tangled.
Okay, like the Prince Charming kind of guy.
The wanted poster dude.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen that movie once.
As soon as they made
But I just remember
those.
his voice, his voice was kind of like everywhere after that movie, because that movie did really well.
Okay.
And I think that really felt not like it needed to. That was in the middle of Chuck. But anyway, that's
Thor, semicolon, in the middle of Chuck. That's the name of the next Thor movie after they introduced time travel.
It'd probably be funny.
Yeah.
That
was probably the worst joke I've ever told on the podcast, and I actually renounced the joke.
I'm just going to move on.
Move on.
So then the main bad guy, who is Christopher Eccleston, is the actor's name. Definitely not saying it right. He's been in a lot of stuff. Most notable to me, I'm also just like so tired that I don't know. I skipped over a lot of things. Most of it's just British TV.
Okay.
But then he was a Doctor Who in 2005.
He was?
Yep.
Did you catch how long he was a Doctor Who?
13 episodes.
Oh, so maybe a season? I don't know how long their seasons are.
Me neither. Also
okay.
a show I don't watch. And then he's in 28 Days Later, and I have not seen that movie, so I don't know who he is.
I've seen it. I don't remember.
In this movie, he kind of looks familiar to me, but not really. And I think he's just a guy that's in a lot of movies. Mm-hmm. Also, he was wearing a lot of makeup, so it's like, who is he really?
You know, this is another side. I might be a little tangenty on this episode, but 28 Days Later, I've seen that movie, and then they made 28 Weeks Later.
Which is about Sandra Bullock in rehab, right? Or in a coma.
I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
I'm looking it up
I don't
right
think
now.
Sandra Bullock's in 28 Weeks Later, but...
Are you sure?
I'm almost
because in The
100%
Office,
positive.
Jim and Pam are talking about it because Pam accidentally rents. 28 Weeks Later. Oh, I thought you meant 28 Days.
No.
28 Weeks Later is a sequel.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
I was thinking of 28 Days, which is
so
Sandra Bullock.
thing...
Stop it. Sandra Bullock is in rehab.
Okay,
for
whatever.
28 days.
Mine though is you have 28 Days Later, which is the idea is this guy wakes up and the zombie apocalypse has happened 28 days prior.
Yeah.
And then 28 Weeks Later, which I haven't seen, but I love this idea for a sequel. It's like 28 weeks after the first outbreak of the zombie thing. But I don't know if that movie sucks or whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know.
But in my head, I'm like, they need to make 28 months later.
Oh, yeah.
And then they need to make 28 years later and make it it'd be like this just really odd franchise where they don't even use the same actors and stuff, and then you're just jumping in on random points in like an apocalypse. I think that's a really interesting idea.
I have seen that movie so many times on TV and never the full movie. I know Cillian Murphy. 28 Days Later. Cillian Murphy is the guy, like he's the main character, and I know that it's zombies, and well, that's the virus or something, and like that is a recipe for a Jordan movie.
It really
is.
And
I don't know why I have never seen it. I think I just missed the boat, and then I just forget it exists until it's brought up in something, and it's like, oh yeah, that movie, I need to see that movie. After this conversation, I probably will continue to not see it.
Yeah, I remember when I saw it, someone showed it to me, and I was kind of like laughing throughout the whole movie.
Did you not like it?
Well, it was also during my period where I only liked prestigious movies, and I couldn't be okay with just I don't know. I think the movie's probably way better than I thought it was.
Okay.
So, anyway, back to 28 Weeks Later.
No. Okay, so then the director, Alan Taylor, he, aside from directing Terminator Genesis...
Yes, which we're going to talk about at some point.
This is like... Alan Taylor's nickname should be Mr. TV, because this dude has had his hand in just about every huge, successful TV show ever. You have Game of Thrones, Sex and the City, Lost, West Wing, Deadwood, Sopranos, Mad Men... Funny enough, all these shows I have not seen. But
Boardwalk Empire.
Oh, Boardwalk Empire. He's done so. He apparently he does something that's very valuable, or he brings a very valuable asset to television.
They call him the valuable asset on TV.
No, it's Mr. TV. I just too late. Already said it.
All right.
I'm done.
Oh, really? Okay. So, on the screenplay side of things, and so. I can't remember, just stop me if I explain this in another episode, but sometimes in movies like this, you have the story by credit and the screenplay. I did explain that?
Oh, I mean, no, continue.
Okay, so you have the story by credit and the screenplay credit. And the story by is like the people doing just the basic story. And
Does that mean they like outline it or something?
I don't know where it breaks down on that. I just know that the screenplay people, of course, they're the ones
writing the lines of dialogue.
Well, not even that. They're like the ones making the screenplay, like the typed up screenplay,
which would be the lines of dialogue.
Yeah, but there's also action involved and stuff, and so they're still a part of the creative process. The understanding I have is like, so here we have story by, it's Don Payne who story by on Thor, and Robert Rodat who did The Patriot and Saving Private Ryan.
Okay.
So I'm assuming those guys came in and there's like, here's the idea, here's where we want it to go. Thor does this, Jane does that, and give all the specifics. And then Christopher Yost, who wrote Thor Ragnarok, takes over and writes a screenplay.
He's done a ton of Marvel, just not even Marvel, just superhero stuff.
Okay. And then we got Stephen McGilly and Christopher Marcus, who, as we all know, wrote Captain America 1, 2, and 3, and Avengers 3 and 4. So, anyway, that's kind of that breakdown. It's produced by, can you take a wild guess who produced this movie? I'll give you a hint. He produced the last 7 movies, and he will continue to produce all 23 of the movies.
I feel like it's a Kevin.
Yeah, and his last name's Feige. Music by Brian Tyler, did Iron Man 3, and I think he's done, like, I think most of the Phase 2 movies.
Okay. Wait, what was it again?
Brian Tyler.
Did what?
Didn't he do music?
So no.
Didn't he do Guardians of the Galaxy? You might have to double check us or tune back in.
I'll look
2
right
weeks.
now.
Cinematography, we got Kramer Morgenthau, who did Creed 2 and Terminator Genesis. Budget of this movie got $170 million. It kind of seems like all the movies are clocking in around 170 in this Phase 2 so far. Domestic, it made $206 million.
Tyler Bates.
Oh, Tyler Bates did Guardians. Okay. But Brian Tyler did, he's done a few of the other ones. Iron Man 3, for example, like I already said.
Oh, he also did John Wick.
Bates?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He played with Merritt. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, people have not listened to it yet.
No, we haven't.
But we have talked about
that.
it as a married couple.
Here's what I'll say, people. We watched it out of order, which I think we already talked about. Actually, the only thing we've watched out of order is Thor: The Dark World. But I will say that I think you are in for a real treat if you tune in for the Guardians of the Galaxy episode, because we have a lot of fun. So definitely tune into that episode. If you're gonna choose one from Phase 2, that's the one to do. But if you only chose one, then I guess you chose this one, and you're out of options.
Sucks for you.
Budget $170, domestic it made $206,362,140, worldwide $644,571,402.
How many cents?
Don't got the cents.
No.
They probably round up for this. November 8th, 2013 is its release date.
2013?
Did I say 13th?
No, you...
I did. November 8th, 2013 is when this movie came out. This is pretty interesting, I thought. October 13th, 2011, Patty Jenkins was announced to direct the movie.
Is that the Wonder Woman?
This is the guy, the girl who directed Wonder Woman and is directing
Good call,
the next.
Jordan. I haven't even seen that one.
Yeah. But she left over creative differences. She wanted to do a Romeo and Juliet type story where Jane is stuck on Earth and Thor is forbidden from saving her.
Okay.
That sounds kind of boring to me, but I don't really like the story of Romeo and
Juliet. Mike and I talked about something interesting while watching this movie.
Uh-huh. What was it?
Pretty unrelated to this movie, but it also is related. There are only 2 female villains in the entirety of the Marvel universe.
As far as we can gather.
There probably are some like bad girls like that are like working for the bad people, but not the bad guy.
Uh-huh.
There are only 2 women that we could think of, and even in whatever. I don't want to talk about it.
Well, last week we talked about how in Iron Man 3, Shane Black wanted it to be Rebecca.
Yes.
What is her last name? Rebecca.
C. Hall? That sounds so wrong.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Rebecca Hall.
Miss
Rebecca
Rebecca.
Hall. No C.
Wow.
Just Rebecca Hall, how he wanted her to be the villain, and then
she wouldn't sell toys.
It wouldn't sell toys if the girl was the villain or something.
Yeah.
Weird. If
it's just so
more
weird.
information on that, go back to last week.
Well, then we were also saying that personally, and I'm speaking for Micah too, because we talked about this last night, we're not huge fans of the female villains that are even in the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in comparison to the other villains. So it's very interesting.
It is
to think
really
about.
interesting. And
I'm going to start a petition.
Whoa.
To have only male villains.
Uh-oh. Well, that your wish has already come true, basically.
Whoa.
You know who we did forget? But she does kind of fall into your category that you just spoke of.
Yeah.
The girl from Infinity War, who you really hate how she looks.
Oh, yeah. That falls into that other category.
Yeah.
I mean, like, main bad guys.
Yeah, we got Helena and...
Helena?
Hela from
Kate
Thor
Blanchett.
Ragnarok, and then Ghost Girl from... I'm just going to call her Ghost Girl from The Wasp, which she... I mean, so far in rewatching these movies, she might be the worst of all of the villains.
Yeah, she currently right now in all these rewatches and all this stuff, worst one.
Because even like some of the villains that people classically are kind of like, oh, they were underserved or whatever, they're still kind of interesting. Ghost Girl is like, there's nothing interesting there. But that's another episode for another time.
Wait, was Tim Heidecker in Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just remembering.
So do you know anything about working titles for movies?
Like what they send to theaters and what they're titled under, or when the project is not done yet?
Or what they shoot under?
Yeah, I know about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the person who might not, movies a lot of times have different titles for when they're filming places. So when people are like, what are you shooting? They say, oh, we're shooting this. And especially in a project as big as this where spoilers and leaks are like big possibilities, they have to be careful. So sometimes it's interesting.
What's this one?
This one is Thursday Morning.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure if you want to ever find out where Marvel's filming, just look for the most boring movie title you can find. Because they're just trying to keep people away from their sets, which is really smart. They wanted the realms to feel grounded and grittier. Joss Whedon rewrote several scenes. The mid-credit scene with the Collector was directed by James Gunn. And then they embedded a CGI rendering of Asgard on shots of the natural Norway coast.
Interesting.
So that's kind of cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, and now I understand. I was thinking about it.
They took out helicopters and they filmed the Norway coast.
I was just thinking like the planet city, whatever Asgard is, like with the space behind it, like stars and constellations. Just like what's the point? But I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I like that.
So that's all my notes.
Okay.
On the movie. So this is Thor: The Dark World.
A lot of people's least liked Marvel movie, from what I've heard, just throughout this movie's existence, because I haven't seen it until just this time.
Yes.
So, which left my expectations non-existent. I was actually dreading watching it, and I know we're not totally getting into opinions yet, but like that's how I started this movie.
You're setting the table.
Okay, setting the table, forks, knives, napkins, plate,
cups.
Let's dig in.
Okay. So, the intro of the movie starts similar to Thor. You have Odin narrating, and he starts talking about this ether and talking about...
And then you think, am I watching The Fellowship of the Ring right now?
Yeah. And he starts talking about the dark elves and how they're trying to find this ether, and they want to bring darkness into the light of the world. And Malekith is there.
Who is the main bad guy. So we can just start right into that, because those elves look cool.
Look really cool. This whole first sequence
is cool.
It's really cool.
They're like, the makeup is just really well done, and beyond the makeup, the costumes of their like armor, it's just new. It's interesting.
Yeah,
I feel like I haven't seen it before. And then there's a shot of like one of them like burning or like disintegrating, and it's harming other people, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I think he's like using
like a kamikaze thing, kind of.
The ether to. Oh no, it's like Malekith gives him some sort of
thing. Yeah, but it was just it looked so.
It looked
cool.
Really good.
It looked really, really good, and this planet looks really good. I mean, when you said that they were wanting to make it look more grounded and gritty, they've done it within this first scene.
Yeah, and it's got this cool color scheme of like gold, yellow, gray, black.
Yeah.
And it just looks good.
Yeah, it really does. And like a lot of people are wearing like gold, and that's really complimentary to the landscape.
Yeah.
It looks nice. And then that makes the red pop even more.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So the opening sequence is very, very exciting. And so then it ends with, I think it's Odin's dad who gets the ether, which is the red infinity stone.
And he tells him to bury it in the ground.
Like it can't be destroyed. It's not easily destroyed. Like their beings cannot do it, so they're going to bury it.
Yeah.
Which is just like, oh, you know what's going to happen if you bury that thing. Someone's going to go dig it up and find it.
Somebody's going to find it.
So that's your whole premise.
And someone who finds it is a little hobbit-turned-creature named Gollum. And so he finds the power of the ether, which is also known as the ring.
Well, yeah, I mean, as we're watching, we're like, well, we know where you could destroy it. There's probably a mountain nearby or volcano or something.
And then I think we cut to the present, and Loki, after the events of Avengers, is now arrested, and he's standing before Odin on trial.
Oh, because you said because of Avengers?
Yes.
You said that? Okay.
Yeah, the events of Avengers.
Yeah, so Odin basically imprisons him for life. Like, that's his sentence, right?
Yes.
I think it's life.
I think it is life, yeah.
Pretty good scene.
Yeah. And already, I don't know if I should do my take now or later, but I was realizing as this movie was progressing, because I was like, I kind of like this a lot, but then whenever they go to Earth, I kind of hate it.
A lot. Let me just say this to all of... I'm about to sneeze. No, I'm good. To all of the people who really disliked this movie, let me just say, I understand. However, and I'm not even urging people to watch it again, because I don't know if it's really worth a rewatch, but there are redeemable qualities in this movie.
There really are.
There are.
I was kind of shocked at how bad I thought it was and how much better it was than I thought it was. I
guess we just gave our opinions, and everyone is turning off the episode.
No, don't do it. Yeah, I gotta just jump into this idea. But all of this stuff at the beginning of the movie, like Thor is also protecting this other realm with his band of buddies, and you're like, well, this is kind of cool. Like, it's fun to learn how Asgard works and hang out with these British, like, you know, Anthony Hopkins and stuff. Like, all that stuff's kind of cool, and Chris Hemsworth, of course, is so charismatic. I just love to watch him in anything. So all of this is really cool, and I think where both Thor and Thor the Dark World fail is they go to Earth. And I know he has to go to Earth so that they can get him in the Avengers, but I kind of wish that at the end of Thor, maybe something... I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how they could have done it differently, but my issue with these two movies is if you take out the Earth element, get rid of Jane, because she's down there on like the bottom 5 worst characters in the series. Even though I love Natalie Portman, for the record. If you get rid of them and get rid of the weird, like, people on Earth proving it all with science, which is really boring, and I don't know, because it's a fantasy movie. It takes
the fun out of all of the Thor stuff. I understand that, like, part of it is interesting because they're talking about anomalies and all that stuff, but it's like, it's a superhero movie. Why do we need to make it scientific?
Yeah, and I feel like what's his name, Iron Man, he covers the sci-fi element of the series.
For sure. And what's great, and then we've talked about this so many times, but what's great is they don't really explain it. There was that one part in Iron Man 2 where they got a little too into it, explaining it.
Yes.
But that was like where you lost me, because I have no idea what you're talking about. Because I am not a physicist or an astrologer. Like, I don't know. So just make it more like visual instead of using your words.
Yeah, and I like the idea of, so say you're like, well, we have to have Jane on Earth. We want her to be in the movie. And she's a scientist, but why not give her, like, the awe of someone, like in Interstellar, I'll use it as an example, like a pretty hard sci-fi movie, full of sci-fi, but at a certain point, he goes into a bookshelf, is like traveling through time, and he becomes the ghost of his daughter, which if that does not make sense to you, you're just going to have to watch the movie. Mm-hmm. And he is kind of just struck with awe. He can't explain it. Mm-hmm. So I hate how, like, at the end of this movie, she's like, "Oh, I figured out how to fight the bad guy."
Oh, yeah.
Woohoo,
and
here
there
we
was
go. All that stuff sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be so cool if even if she did figure it out, she had, like, an awe about it. Like, I'm a scientist, and I can't explain this.
It would almost be more. Wouldn't it be more interesting if when we were reintroduced to her character, scrap the whole date thing.
Oh,
like,
boy.
I understand that it's funny. Like, they're going for the light comedic part of the side of the movie. But what they should have done is shown Jane studying anomalies, which is basically what she was doing in the first Thor.
Like where you're headed with this
you
so
just
much
visually
more.
see what she's doing. She can explain a little bit, but don't get into the vocabulary, Natalie.
Yeah.
Don't you do it. Because you will see that she's working on anomalies, and not only is she working on them, she has a really good grasp of understanding what they are, and now she's trying to understand how to use them.
Yeah.
Which is like the exact thing that she does in the fight scene. Is she's using these gravitational anomalies.
So you're telling me you would prefer that Natalie Portman study it and actually understand it instead of stumbling upon it and just kind of existing in the plot. You would prefer that.
I would prefer that.
Huh.
Interesting.
Huh. So you just would prefer a better story in this case.
That part of the story, yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
I know we jumped way ahead, but hopefully you recently watched a movie. So let's go back. That's kind of my hot take on the movie, and I think you could fix both the Thor movies if you just got rid of Earth or integrated it in a way that was less science-based and even less romantic-based.
Yeah.
Or if you are going to... Because in this movie, so we have this character, Sif, who is the other girl that lives on Asgard. And throughout the movie, this is actually one of my big complaints with the movie, Dark World, is there's hinted at, like, Odin and his mom are kind of like, and Loki even, are like,
she's
hey,
the one. Go to her.
She's the girl, and she's immortal.
This
Like-
is just an
like
Elrond
you.
and Arwen argument.
I know, and I was going to use that as an example of that done well, because they don't really ever show the struggle. So he can be with Jane on Earth, and she'll live for 80 years probably. Or he can live with this girl for thousands of years together. And everyone's like, Jane is like ash in the wind. Like, she's here for a second, and then she's gone. But they don't ever really explore that.
No, it's like in the first movie, they like only do hints. This movie, it was a little bit of a harder hint, but it still never amounted to anything.
They didn't explore
so
it.
Just
and
don't do it.
yeah, so I mean, if they had done something like Aragorn and Arwen, how there's an actual struggle where she's immortal and he is not, and if she chooses him, she becomes mortal. Like, that's a really powerful statement. That's like a statement about love. But at the end of this movie, him just kind of hanging out with Jane at the end, it almost feels like it's just a fling for him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't care that much, because he can just kind of visit whenever he wants, and then he can protect and stuff. There's no actual stakes involved in their relationship.
And it also doesn't help that they don't have any chemistry.
Yeah, that does not help either.
So yeah, like to fast track to that crap. So like, you go to Earth, you see that Jane is dating or on a date with a guy. Not going.
Yeah.
She clearly is just so hung up on Thor.
And they're doing the stupid, like the really stupid kind of humor where the guy's like, I was hung up on a relationship too, but she went pretty far away and I couldn't really deal with it. And she's kind of like, you got no idea, Buster, because my man's 50,000 kilometers away.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, I don't know. She also didn't have
that's
that
not very
accent,
far.
But it's just
I'm just kidding.
Kind of.
I'm kidding.
It's kind of
No, I
crazy.
agree. And then it's interrupted by the worst character in the entire Marvel universe. One of my least favorite actresses just in the world.
Kat Dennings, the titular broke girl.
Yeah. Yeah, and
She comes
I mean,
in-
if people like her, I guess she's just not for us. But her voice is so grating. It's so grating.
Yeah, but
And
I don't
she's-
even want to throw out like her voice. That's just something she has.
Yeah, but it's so
But let's talk about how she's in this movie, and she's also in Thor. She's atrocious in this
And
movie.
she's an intern, right?
She's Natalie's
After
intern.
Thor, just quit being, like, shouldn't your term be up?
Yeah.
Why are you still an intern?
Well, this should be explored in a future movie, in her spin-off movie.
No.
So what's really annoying about her is she's in a different movie than everyone else. And her movie is literally, it's two broke girls, because after every line of dialogue, I was straining, but you could almost hear it. It was right there. You could hear the audience laughing.
Yeah.
Ha!
It was all just one-liners.
One-liners, zingers, zammers, zoomers. But you're like, why is this in this movie? Like, this is a movie where Thor's mom dies, where Loki, we think he dies, but he winds up not dying, where the fate of Asgard is thrown on.
And yeah, and that's what we were talking about. Like, this is, at least for me, this was, and I know I didn't even see this movie until just this time. Mm-hmm. But like, that was what really did it for me with Marvel, is they kept trying to put in these jokes, these one-liner jokes, when it was just like, I understand that like Marvel is pretty light. Well, some of it's light, you know, the comics, but it's like, for the movies, just commit to being intense if that's what you want. Just commit to it.
That's what I don't...
Guardians of the Galaxy and commit to being hilarious.
Yeah. That's again why I struggle with the Thor series so much, is because it's like they want their foot in like both puddles.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I wish you would just choose. And you can be funny. Like Avengers Infinity Endgame is really, really dark and really emotional. It's also hilarious. Mm-hmm. But they found a balance.
It's almost like it took them a couple movies to figure it out.
Yeah, which, you know, there should be a little mercy there. But I just think that in Endgame, it's the kind, of course, it's like over the top humor and stuff because it's a movie. But it's also the kind of thing where you're like, yeah, sometimes in life, even when things are serious, you crack a joke. Yeah. And it feels normal to the world they've built. But this is just like, oh, there's this one character that we brought because we want the CBS demographic to show up at the movies. Yeah,
it is what it's like.
And she's horrible, and she has this intern. So it's an intern, which is supposed to be a funny joke. And he's kind of a hot guy who like...
I don't know about that.
Jordan, he's a hot guy.
Oh, okay.
No, he's just like... I guess, yeah, that was the wrong description.
It's a guy that Kat Dennings obviously chose because he's cute.
Yeah, and the cool thing about him is he doesn't
doesn't do anything.
If he wasn't in the movie, there would be no effect on the plot.
Yeah.
They would just have to cut the scene of him saving her.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about that anymore.
I think we've done our spiel on that.
So Natalie Portman, so they're seeing all these anomalies happening in London, and this like abandoned warehouse in London, which is pretty interesting stuff. Mm-hmm. And she is let's just say she falls into one of the anomalies, or she's taken to a different realm. And this realm is something that's been buried several layers underground, and it's red, it's ether-like. I don't really know what that is, but you know, it's the ether. Yes, it's the Infinity Stone.
The ether is a pretty cool. I like the design of it. This like flowy red, liquidy, kind of looks like veins moving around.
I like it too. So she absorbs it without trying to. It just like goes into her, and then she's down.
And then it wakes up the Dark Elves.
And then she's back on Earth, but it's like as if she has become an anomaly. Yeah. Because she's like defying gravity in certain ways. When people try and touch her, they like, you know, it's as if it's defending her without her even trying. And then it's like, oh, okay, Thor shows up and it's like, I haven't seen you for 2 years. You were in New York. I even saw you then. How come you didn't call me? And then he's like, oh, I've been saving people's lives for 2 years, like thousands and thousands of people's lives.
Yes.
And so it's whatever. I don't want to get into that stuff too. We've already established that they have no chemistry. So
then Thor takes her to Asgard.
And they do this really funny thing, and it's not a joke. Mm-hmm. Natalie Portman is on this. She's on this examination table, and there are like these women. That, like it's as if her DNA is above her, and they're studying it.
It looks suspiciously like something they'd use in Wakanda.
And they're trying to figure out what's wrong with her because something clearly is wrong with her. There's something in her that's not normal. They can't figure it out. And then Odin comes and he's just like, I know everything about you to Natalie Portman. And like, yada yada, I'm a grumpy old man. You're not immortal. You can't date my son. And then he's walking away and something happens that gets him to turn around. She
like explodes again. She like pushes people away.
Yeah, she pushes people away and he turns around and he goes up to her and he's like, that's the problem.
And he like shines his hand and it like reveals that the ether's inside
and
her.
It's like the thing that the women were doing previously couldn't have shown that because now it seems really obvious.
Yeah.
So that was pretty funny. But then they realized quickly like we need to protect her because that means the elves are going to be coming to look for her.
Yeah.
And let me just say, the whole elf thing, freaking cool that they're like science fiction elves.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Loved it.
They have like spaceships that are like that have like mechanical elements to them. They're not like run by magic or anything like that. Like it's I guess they sort of are, but they sort of aren't. And they have these grenades that when they throw them, it like sucks people into like a abyss of nothingness.
Yes.
Which is super cool. Speaking of villains, though, one thing I wanted to talk about in terms of the overarching huge story. Now, let me know if you agree with this statement. But when you watch a movie like this one, where you see this Malekith guy, he looks really cool. He seems really cool. He's kind of got interesting motives. But when you're watching it, you're like, I think even at the time as a viewer, you're going, well, Avengers 2 is coming out in a little bit, and that's going to be the climax. So I think something that kind of hurts the series is you always know that there's going to be a bigger event.
Yeah.
So when the villain doesn't really stand out, they're kind of pointless. If that makes sense.
No, I get that.
So the whole movie, like I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, but he's no Thanos.
Yeah.
And I know that they can't do that every time, and it would suck if they did it every time. But
that's what I know. I'm going to talk about Guardians. We haven't gotten to that episode yet, but that's what the interesting thing about Ronan is to me. Is he does serve a higher purpose.
Yeah.
That's not part of the story. He is working with Thanos, but it's because him and Thanos have like bartered.
Yeah.
They have come to an agreement on something. I will give you these people to help you do this if you help me do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you don't know as you're watching Guardians, but that very much affects the timeline.
Yes.
And I know that movie is a little bit more involved in like the overarching thing that's happening.
Well, this one is too. I mean, we're dealing with an Infinity
That's
Stone.
true. So it's like, I find that it still bears a lot of weight. The Guardians villain.
Yeah.
In contrast to this one.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I guess that's a good point to make. Another point I'm also trying to make is when you do like a Malekith, if I don't know exactly how you do it, but you need like this is not working words wise. But I would use Vulture as an example from Spider-Man Homecoming.
Okay.
Like his motives and
personal.
his connection to Spider-Man and to Tony Stark and stuff is so personal, and the stakes are lower, but it seems more it seems more dangerous to Spider-Man. Yeah. So it's like you are really invested in the villain. And in this one, even though I think the actor's doing a good job, there's just that thing in the back of your head where you're like, he's not Thanos.
Yep.
Or I've seen I don't know when the trailer came out for Ultron, but you're like, Ultron's coming out. So he's like the big bad guy in this series. So you're never really like worried that Malekith is going to succeed or really affect the larger narrative in any way. Mm-hmm. And not that you think that with, say, Vulture, but you know that he might affect Spider-Man
if anything,
in some sort of way.
The importance of his character is to take away minor characters that affect Thor. Mm-hmm. Kills his mom. That affects Thor. Huge, like that's almost like the biggest purpose that he serves.
Wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I really don't, because a bigger villain who has more different, better motives could do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, I think that is the greatest purpose that this guy serves is Thor's character not to the Marvel stories.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Shout out to... Oh, I'm not going to say this right.
Oh.
Adewale Akinuoye Agbahe J. The black elf.
Oh, yeah.
That guy was
cool.
badass.
So, Malekith gives that guy the
this like little stone thing
that turns him into, it like kills him, but it makes him
stronger.
Kind of like an
It doesn't kill him because
creature.
it makes it stronger. So dumb. And he just gets one of the coolest costumes.
Yeah, it's kind of
ever.
It's kind of got a. It definitely looks different, but it kind of has the Balrog look.
Yeah.
From Fellowship of the Ring and the
Yeah.
Mines of Moria.
It's weird because it's like they gave him a helmet, but the helmet like becomes his face because his mouth moves in it and stuff.
Pretty cool.
Dang, it is just so flippin' cool. And he's very strong because of this thing that he's been given. And he's going to... His purpose is...
Well, he gets arrested.
Well, yeah, but I'm telling you what his purpose is. His mission...
Well, he gets arrested.
Is to go to Asgard and the whole thing is to get the ether back. And his job is to create chaos and to like release the prisoners to distract Asgard as all of his dudes come to take the ether.
Yeah, because Malekith senses the ether, so he knows where it's at.
And boy, is it just cool.
And then guess who else is in that prison?
Loki.
And
he does not let Loki out.
Yeah, so he breaks out in a really cool sequence.
Yeah.
Where he like, because they have these weird, it's just like a see-through yellow sheen in front of
basically glass.
the
Let's just
window.
call it. It's not glass, but
it's like gel kind of, and he's able to like break through it, and then he like frees all the prisoners, and he looks at Loki, and then he walks away, and Loki says like, you might want to take the stairs on the left.
Yeah, I like the design of the prison cells / like a lot of new Asgard stuff we saw in this movie as opposed to the last one. Like their ships are very mechanical looking. It's almost like Asgard is a little bit steampunk, a little bit with those ships that they have. What?
Maybe my understanding of steampunk is different.
Well, people who know steampunk. Not you.
Just comment on our...
I'm not saying everything, but they got a tiny bit of a steampunk vibe on some other things, and then you have this prison thing that's very scientific when Asgard is very like folklore.
Yeah.
It's a fun... I like where they take their creative liberties.
Yeah, I agree.
And a classic folk... Because basically it's like Celtic folklore is a lot of what Thor is, but they do take liberties in what it looks like.
Yes. Yeah.
Into it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's get to the point where Thor's mom dies.
Well, I have this note, which I think we should discuss for about 30 minutes. It's attack on Asgard is fairly cool, decent action. That's what I wrote.
Yeah. Okay. Which leads to the event of Thor's mom dying.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's all a cool scene.
One thing I did want to say, though, is somewhere in this, before the breakout happens... Rocket and Future Rocket and Future Thor break in, steal the ether, leave, and Thor almost tells his mom that she's about to die, but she tells him not to.
He does tell her, doesn't he?
I don't think he does, because she's like, no, what's going to happen is going to happen.
Oh.
And then he goes away. And then, of course, we all know that Captain America brings back the hammer and brings back the stone later so that the correct timeline can lay out. Those are the sorts of things that I'm just like, that's why Endgame is so cool. It just like ties the whole series together. Boy, I love that movie.
But we're not talking about Endgame.
It's an easy 9 out of 10.
Okay.
It's a masterpiece.
Okay.
Let's still hang on that. Go. I meant.
Oh, okay.
So mom dies.
Mama dies.
Yeah. Stephanie dies.
Is that her real name?
No.
Oh.
That's just... I just said that for fun.
Yeah, she basically sacrificed herself for Natalie Portman, and then you find out Natalie Portman is not really there. She's almost like a hologram.
Mm-hmm. She does the Loki trick.
That happens, and it's whatever. Really affects Thor, obviously.
Yeah, and it's cool when he sees that she dies, and then he just like gets enraged and goes out and starts trying to kill everybody.
Yeah, and then I forget I kind of am blanking out on the rest of this part. But him and Loki team up. After this battle, after all of this stuff happens, Thor goes to Loki because really there is no one else.
Yeah, because Odin orders the Bifrost to be shut down, so no one can leave.
Is that what
Asgard
that thing
and
is
no
called?
Come in. That's what I wrote. I could be wrong. But
I thought the Bifrost were people. I thought that's what Loki was.
Oh, you're right. Well, the bridge that Idris Elba controls.
Okay.
The bridge to different worlds.
Okay.
So they team up with Loki. But before that, I got to hit back on this. Stan Lee is in a hospital where...
We have to go back to Earth.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Where Eric, the scientist from the first movie,
And
is
in
explaining...
Avengers... Wait.
Yes.
It's important to say that he is now crazy because in Avengers, he was put under Loki's spell to be submissive to him as a minion. And now that's not a thing anymore... It's still lingering. Like his brain, his like wires are a little tangled up in his brain.
Yeah, and he runs around Stonehenge naked, and for some reason they show the clip at the beginning of the movie, and none of the characters realize it, and then they show it again, and then the broke girl comes and gets him out of jail.
Very odd. Maybe we missed something. I don't know.
Well, I think it definitely didn't make sense that they showed that footage.
It's like they forgot
twice.
to take that part out.
Yeah, because it would make sense to just show it later.
Yeah.
That's like such a specific thing to complain about.
But the Stan Lee thing.
So Stan Lee's there as in like a mental ward while Eric is explaining the 9 realms and how they're about to all converge for the first times in like 5,000 years.
Oh, and that's why they were able to do those anomalies.
Yeah, that's the whole thing about the
that
anomalies.
makes sense.
Yeah, because that's why she transfers into different realms because when she gets the thing. Anyway... and I think because they're all converging, Malekith thinks if he can get the ether, he can destroy all 9 in one shot. Because they're all going to be like on top of one another. Yeah. Which, guess what?
Cool.
That's really cool. What if we take out the Earth part and we just spend all the Earth part with Malekith doing cool things? That's what I would rather see.
Yeah.
So then they team up with Loki to escape.
They need to be, like, banished.
Yeah, well, they're committing treason.
That's what it is, committing treason.
And then they're with Natalie Portman. And one thing I want to say about Natalie Portman in general, again, I really love Natalie Portman, and I'm not really faulting her for this because it's nearly impossible to be a perfect actor. But she is one of those people. So, as an example against it, you got Sam Jackson, who,
he's either
as
good
they say
or great.
on Blank Check, he's either good or great. Every time he's in a movie, even if the movie is horrible, you're still like, Samuel L. Jackson was pretty good, though.
Yep.
Natalie Portman, as great of an actress as she is, well-deserved of her Oscar, if the script is bad, she's pretty bad. If the director's bad, she's pretty bad. If the script is good and the director's good, she's great and well makes up for that. But so, like, her character is not well written and she doesn't know how to play it this whole movie. And so it's just this kind of really, even though she should be two-dimensional character, to me, she's really one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And there's like nothing to her.
Yeah.
Which I don't fault her for. I fault the screenplay for that.
Yeah, me too.
Because we know, like I just said, if she has a good screenplay, she does a great job.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I agree.
so Loki, Thor, Natalie, they're on a little boat ship and they're flying around and they see Malekith. And then Loki goes, he turns on Thor and he cuts off his arm.
They're not in that boat thing at that point. They're on that planet that was in the beginning of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But continue.
And so...
Oh, Natalie Portman seems to be getting sicker and sicker.
Oh, yeah, and she has a cool dream sequence that looks really cool. And then it's just like red stuff all over the place. And
I remember that. Yeah.
Anyway, so they go down there and Malekith comes out to meet him and Loki's staging it, we find out later, and he fake cut off Thor's arm so that they can attempt to destroy the ether because Malekith is taking it out of Natalie Portman. So now it's out of her and they're hoping to destroy it, and they are unsuccessful in doing so. And Malekith gets it, and he kills
And he goes
Loki.
bye-bye. Oh, yeah, kills Loki.
And as Loki dies, Thor says, I'll tell Father what you did. And Loki says, I didn't do it for him, which is really good.
Yeah.
Then they have to find the...
So how does he come back?
I think the implication is just that he... actually, I spoke before I even thought things through. Big surprise. I think he either faked it or he just made it worse looking than it was. You know what I mean? Because he's got the ability of mischief and stuff.
Could it have anything to do with Endgame?
I suppose it could.
Gotta read about that.
I don't see how it could, but
I don't see how he couldn't.
I could.
Well, I guess that's true.
I see how it could, if they explore it in something else and show it more from the events we learned in Endgame. I don't see.
So
how
we're
it could.
assuming no. Endgame
We're
is not
assuming no.
involved
I
in
think
that.
he's just tricking
Okay.
because he's the god of mischief. And then finally, Thor and Jane arrive in Greenwich, which is where
Greenwich.
Oh,
Say it like they do.
whoops. And that's near London, or it's in London. I don't understand.
It's in the
I don't know.
UK, baby.
And we've already talked about Portman Science, Darcy Intern.
Well, this is the part where Malekith is there, Thor is there, they're fighting, trying to stop him. And
there actually is cool stuff because they're like punching around and people are flying from one realm to the other realm.
Natalie
and back
Portman
and stuff.
is using is moving the anomalies, like literally moving them
with a science gadget. That means nothing to me.
Yeah, but so it'll take people from one area where they're fighting, move them several blocks away, or to different planets, or whatever. And like they get that really, really really sweet troll creature from the first movie.
Yeah.
Into Greenwich, and it's like cool.
It's running around. I wish he did more.
Yeah, me too.
I wish they had to stop him.
I still think it's cool though.
Yeah.
But Malekith is very strong.
Yeah, and then they beat him.
Do you think that they demonstrate this power? I don't really understand the Infinity Stone thing.
Yeah, because I think it's the Reality Stone.
Google it right now. Wait, I'll Google it.
No, I'm Googling it. What stone
We should have done this before.
is
Sorry,
the
people.
Ether? Oh, it's right there. Ether is the Reality Stone.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
See, because it's demonstrated in Infinity War.
Yeah, it's not really demonstrated in this, but it's also not in stone form, so maybe that has a part to do with it.
But didn't they say it can't be in stone? Well, it is because...
No, because at the end of the movie it is.
No, it's not.
Well, they put it in a box and...
We don't see it as a stone.
Yeah, but I mean when...
I don't want to get into that. It's nitpicky.
Yeah, when Thanos gets there, it's a stone. So,
yeah.
However it turns into a stone, I don't care.
Yeah. But I think I kind of wish they had demonstrated the power a little bit more.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think they really got into that, really. So I guess it's okay that they didn't.
Well, and I suppose also the idea is that, like Malekith, he's not concerned with, like, just changing weird realities. He just
wants to get rid of them.
He just wants to get rid, like, use it to, like, destroy the universe and make it dark and, like, nothingness again.
Yeah. Why does he... Whatever.
Well, I think at one point they say that this universe was an accident and shouldn't have happened.
Okay.
You know, I don't know how that...
Giving you a
totally
thumbs up on
checks
that
out.
one, because I should have asked that question long before we even recorded this. It's the end of the day and I'm winding down.
Yeah.
So, shocker, Malekith does not win.
Mm-hmm.
Thor, with the power of Natalie Portman's anomaly BS... he gets Malekith to go to that planet where the movie originally started.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
Thor has, like, hurt him really bad, taken off arms, yada, yada, yada. And you think, like, oh, that's not enough. They send the ship through the anomaly, and it crashes on him and kills him.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. I'm into that.
Doesn't he come out, though, and then they have to, like, shoot him with something or do something else? Or does that kill him?
That kills him.
Oh, it does? Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. Anyway, return to Asgard. Everything's all happy-go-lucky. And Thor goes, I can't be king, but I want to be a protector of the realms. Mm-hmm. And Odin's like, yeah, that's so commendable. Like, I am so proud of you. And Thor walks away. And he's like, cool, cool, cool. And then it's Loki. It's not Odin talking to him. And then the movie ends, and I think that's a really bad last shot for a movie.
I thought you liked it.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
It's just so, like, cliffhangery.
Oh, okay.
And like, I don't know. It's just kind of like, oh, okay. So this movie, I don't know.
Okay.
It just kind of, it was kind of like the John Wick 3 ending.
There was that weird thing that I feel like we should have rewound it and watched it again. Because I think I was zoning out. But there was this, like, Asgard guard on that planet. And he had said something. And it obviously was not that man. I think it was Loki.
It was.
But they did not, I don't know, I just totally missed it. And he probably said something really important about why he wasn't dead, all that stuff.
No, so the guard showed up and he said, well, I think he showed up on the planet, so you assume that Loki killed the guard.
Yeah.
Turned into him, flew back to Asgard, and then I kind of like, actually,
sorry,
drop the mic, that they don't show it, but he shows up and then he's like, I found a body. It was Loki. And Odin's like, oh, man. And then we finish the battle. Then they come up.
But then what happens to Odin?
I don't remember.
I guess that's why we're rewatching.
Yeah. I don't know if they cover that in Thor Ragnarok. I don't remember them doing it. I just remember him showing up in a dream sequence because he was already dead.
I thought it was like one of those, like the Jedi thing where he like reached enlightenment and
Oh,
yeah,
really?
because wasn't like when he died, that's why Cate Blanchett was able to come back. That's why she was released from prison, because he was gone and he was the only thing keeping her there.
Oh, I thought Loki. I don't know.
We'll save it for that episode.
Anyway,
everyone's probably screaming into their phones like, "No, it's this."
Then there's the mid-credit scene where the Reality Stone is given to Benicio del Toro, and they introduce the Collector. Then there's an end scene where Thor and Jane are hanging out as best buds, and the movie's over.
Yeah.
Now, before we give our opinions, I want to talk about something that is an opinion, so I changed what I just said. There is something about this movie that was pointed out to me by a really great YouTuber, Patrick Willems. Not pointed out to me specifically, pointed out to everyone in videos. But he pointed out that the lighting in this movie is so much better than virtually all the other movies. And as we were watching it...
Besides Guardians.
Virtually all the other movies.
Okay.
It's just like... This movie looks so good.
Yeah.
And when you go from this movie to Winter Soldier, which looks like concrete, even though I like that movie a lot, I like it more than this movie, there's still like, this movie's really visually appealing. Yep. And there's like actually depth, and there's shadows, and there's like the scenes in the palaces and stuff, there's light coming in from windows, and when they walk through the light, it makes the outline of their faces and stuff have that glow, and then they go into the dark. So this movie is...
Well, even the last
one of the better looking movies in the whole world.
Yeah.
Universe.
The last battle scene was even fought during the day, which is something that Marvel loves doing for some reason. Mm-hmm. But it was in England, so it's
all
like
cloudy.
It's overcast, and therefore it looked better
instead
than
of
all
just
the other
a sunny
ones.
day.
Yeah.
Like in Winter Soldier, how there's like 5 sunny day fights.
And I just am like nodding off, falling asleep.
But once again, I like Winter Soldier. But you'll find all that out tomorrow. I mean, a week from now.
Oh, yeah, I guess this one's after. Wow.
Yeah. The other thing is our opinions, and let's give them. I will let you start.
Gosh, we need to stop this podcast. I have found that when my expectation, when I'm like dreading a movie that we have been watching for this, I end up enjoying it. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that this movie is great, but I was very surprised to find that like I did enjoy it, a lot of it being because it was very visually pleasing.
Yeah.
So I didn't get like, my eyes weren't drifting off looking at the wall because I'm like, I don't care what I'm looking at. It was like I wanted to be looking at it and watching it.
Totally.
Granted, there are a lot of terrible things in this movie, just namely the Earth stuff. Mm-hmm. All of those people involved in that, just like boring. But I think that all of the Asgard stuff was much more interesting. I think this is better than the first Thor.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah. Nah, I don't know. Maybe. Yes. I don't know. It's definitely not the worst Marvel movie, which I thought it was going into it. It's a really solid 5 out of 10 to me.
I think I liked it better than Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I think Ant-Man and the... Well, I think... I don't know. We'll see. We'll see
I'm curious.
I don't know if anything can be worse than The Incredible Hulk after rewatching that. That was like...
Oh, yeah. That was bad.
That was really bad. Yeah, and then as far as in a bigger franchise... Like Iron Man 3, I don't really think you can watch Thor and then Thor the Dark World. I think it's too confusing. I think
in terms of timeline.
You have to have Avengers in there as well.
Yeah, you do.
So,
but I just think that's cool. I like that.
Yeah,
that
no, I like
so
it. It's just something I like to talk about. And it
is interesting.
I don't think, like in the future, you couldn't be like, guys, you got to watch the Thor series. Oh, you can forget about everything else. So far, the only movie you can really lose is Incredible Hulk. Otherwise, to get like the full story, you have to watch all of them so far.
So far.
Yeah. We'll see. Maybe there's going to be a movie like Ant-Man that kind of sucks and you don't have to worry about.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay.
And doesn't really affect anything, if I remember right.
Whoa, hot take.
Next week is Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Aye, aye, Captain. We salute you, Mr. President. Well, no, we salute you, Steve Rogers, the real Mr. President. Hello? Is anyone still listening?
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, have a friend listen to it. Force your friend to listen to it by putting headphones on in their ears.
Or share it on Instagram.
Share it.
Or
just also
rate it on iTunes.
If this is your first episode or if you have been listening, just review it because we enjoy reading what you have thought about an episode.
It's pretty fun to read the reviews so far.
Yeah. And I would like to have more.
I want to have all the reviews.
Yeah.
I'm like Malekith. I want all the reviews so I can turn this whole podcast world into darkness from whence it came.
Nah.
Thanks.